Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And see me. So today's presentation or today's live stream, we're going to be talking about preparation and presentation in the dawah. And so, alhamdulillah, this is a very important element for doing dawah. And often, a lot of the times, this is often neglected. And essentially, when we talk about dawah, when we talk about the importance of dawah and going out and sharing the message of Islam, essentially this could be argued that this is probably one of the most important elements of going out there and sharing the message of Islam, right? So I'm going to bring it back down to basics, and let's start at the beginning, right? Because we are talking about dawah. So what is dawah? What do you understand from the word dawah? What does it mean to you? What does it mean from the Islamic perspective, inshallah? If you could write in the comments what you think, and then I'll tie it all in terms of why presentation and preparation is so essential in doing dawah, because it all goes back to the fundamentals of doing dawah. So who can write in the comments what is dawah? What does dawah mean? And why is it important? Okay, so we have, mashallah, someone from the UK, someone from Egypt, mashallah. So don't forget to like and share this video so as many people can benefit from, and we want to make it engaging today so that you guys can benefit and so we can share ideas with each other. So mashallah, so someone has put here to invite people to the truth. Absolutely. You know, the key word here is invitation, right? We're inviting people to learn about Islam, to learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the key element when we think about the word invitation, it's a word that when you think about it, it brings about, you know, ideas or thoughts of something that is welcoming, something that is friendly, you know, something that is nice, essentially. An invitation is something nice. When you get invited to an event, you know, you look forward to it. When you get invited to a party, you know, you're excited. So it's something that is seen as positive. It's not seen as something negative. And so this is very important when we're talking about going out and doing dawah. We're actually inviting people, right? And so we're not forcing anyone, you know, to embrace Islam. Islam is not about converting people. It's not about shahadas, because that's all in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our job is to invite people in the best possible way so that they can learn about the truth, the reality of the world, the true nature of life in the best way possible. And so if we're going to be that beacon of communication, then an essential part of that is to be prepared and to have, you know, good preparation skills, inshallah. So today, what we're going to be talking about is something that we are developing in the background, and it's really exciting. And what it's focusing on is really public speaking. And you know, public speaking is an acquired skill. It's something that takes a lot of practice. It's something that is very powerful. And for most people, it's something that is very scary. You know, if we look at public speaking, because that's what Dawah is all about, going out there and speaking to strangers or people about Islam. So you have to speak. But for most people, when it comes to public speaking, fear is one of the biggest elements, right? And so how do you overcome that fear, right? And when you develop this skill of public speaking, it has a number of benefits, right? For example, if you have a fear of public speaking, if you haven't developed your speech, if you're not confident in speaking, this can actually reduce the amount of money you can get in terms of income. Also, fear of public speaking, it inhibits promotion. Because if you look at the best leaders in the world, if you look at managers, people that inspire people, the key element that they have, yes, they have the message, they may have a powerful message, they may have something that is interesting, but unless they're able to deliver it in a very powerful way, that is engaging, that is exciting, that is energetic, people are not going to take notice, right? And so this is an essential skill in the dawah. And so we're going to be giving you some tips. So something that we're developing is something called the speak methodology. And I'm just going to give you a little overview of the Speak methodology. So it's essentially a public speaking course that will be made available soon, and it is made of 5 main steps, right? So the Speak methodology is actually an acronym, and it stands for 5 words. So the first word, S, is story, right? And that's essentially your story, the story about speaking. So we have an element of story. And then the second element is psychology, which is an essential part of being a good public speaker. Your psychology, the psychology of others, how to influence people. Then the next 2 elements is really the skill, the expertise and the action, right? And these 2 are linked together. And the final element of this is the keystone, right? Which is the final jigsaw where you pull all of this together. And alhamdulillah, this course is going to revolutionize public speaking, because it has all of the elements of public speaking in a very practical way, which essentially will take someone who has never given a talk before into a powerful speaker. And it's all using the best elements that are out there, people who have developed skills, people who have authority in this area, but also from a deen perspective, in terms of, if you look at the best speakers, and when it comes to dawah, we look to the prophets, and all of them had to speak. At some point, they had to go and speak to their leaders and convey the message of Islam. So they developed this skill. So we bring that all together. So today, because we don't have much time, we're going to touch upon one element of the Speak system, which is really in the expertise and action section. And that is the 3 aspects of presentation, or the 3 aspects of speech. And so it's going to be really exciting. So before I continue, alhamdulillah, we've got more viewers that are tuning in, inshallah. And so if you just joined us, please don't forget to like and share this video. And also, please comment in the comments box where you're from. So we have Kosna, that is from Philippines. Anyone else that's recently joined us, just put in the comments box where you're from and how you're finding the live stream as well. And tell us a little bit about yourself as well. Like, are you a public speaker? What element of public speaking would you like to develop whilst we're doing today's live stream, inshallah. So, like I said, when we begin anything, obviously we begin with intentions. We're taught that actions are by intentions. And so, of course, when it comes to dawah, it's no different. And so the first and most important thing is we do this for the right reason. So the foundation has to be, number one, purely for the sake of Allah. So always remember to renew your intention. MashaAllah, we have Huda from Makkah. Assalamu alaikum. MashaAllah, good to see all of you guys, an international, MashaAllah, audience today. Alhamdulillah. So like I said, intentions is so important. And even for yourself, you have to ask yourself the question, the why. Why is this so important to you? Why are you doing this today? In terms of why are you going to be delivering this talk? So the questions you need to ask yourself is, why are you here? We are here because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and we are here for a purpose. We are tested, but part of that purpose is to go out there and share the message of Islam. So we understand that we have a purpose to our life, but also you have to ask yourself, being involved in the dawah, why do you want to become a public speaker? And the reason is because you want to be effective in the work that you're doing, to convey the message of Islam in the best possible way, right? And so when it comes to understanding why you do something, these are essential questions you need to answer for yourself. The real, the why of what you're doing, inshallah. So that's the first element, is to really understand why you're doing something. Why is it important that you go out and do dawah? Well, Allah tells us in the Quran, right? Our job here is to share the message of Islam with humanity, right? And this is part of our purpose. It's not something that we keep to ourselves. The message of Islam that the Prophet ﷺ left with us was for the whole of humanity. So wherever we live, we need to go and share the message of Islam so people can understand the reality of this life, the nature. So this is, why we are doing this. And then why is it important that you go and share the message of Islam? Why is it important that you do it? Well, all of us need to be doing this, because it can be part of our salvation as well. So that's the first element of understanding public speech. So what we're going to go into is, like I said, the three aspects of speech, right? And so we're going to be using a really interesting analogy. The analogy we're going to be using is something called the M&M system, right? And so when I say M&M system, I don't mean the rapper Eminem. I'm actually talking about the chocolate M&M. So does anyone know what I'm talking about? Has anyone heard of M&Ms, the chocolate? If you have, just please comment in the comment box. So M&Ms, have you ever had an M&M? Okay, mashallah, we have Bertul from Turkey, mashallah. Abu Bakr from Egypt, mashallah. So does anyone know what an M&M is? No? Yes? You've heard of it? I can't do it right now, but I don't actually have an M&M. But if someone's able to put up a picture of an M&M in the comment section, that would be really good, because it really crystallizes the understanding. So we've got here, Bertul says the M&M method for currency translation is converting monetary accounts. Okay, so this is a different M&M. I'm not talking about this currency translation, even though that sounds really interesting. I'm talking about the chocolate, M&M. Okay, so Mariam says, yes, I know M&M chocolate, right? Imam Fahim says Muslim matters. Okay, yeah, so that's what I'm talking about, the M&M chocolate. And the M&M chocolate is really distinctive and it's really interesting. It's a unique chocolate because it has three elements to it, right? You probably see them in different colors. They're like yellow, red, green, blue. So it has three different elements. It's got a shell, right, which is the outer covering of the chocolate. Then beneath the shell is the chocolate itself, right, which is the chocolate piece. But within the center is a nut, right? And so when you bite into it, it's a really interesting and really nice experience, right? So I'm talking about the M&M with the peanut in it. And why that's interesting is because it has three different elements. And why it works as a chocolate, because all of these three elements come together and gives you that amazing experience. And not only that, it's a solid structure. All of those three elements are kept together. So you have this solid piece of chocolate which you can experience. And so when we were developing the Speak system, we came up with this analogy. We said, the M&M, and it really crystallizes the three elements of when it comes to the expertise and public speaking. So let me tell you what that is. So you have three M's, right, in this system. You have the message, you have the mechanism, and then you have the mantle, right? So the message is the actual nut itself, which is contained in the center. I'm going to be covering that briefly. Then you have the mechanism, which is the chocolate, the outer, the sort of inner layer of chocolate. And then you have the shell itself, which is different colors, which is the mantle. And all of these three elements come together to produce an amazing public speech, right? And in a very powerful way. And so if you can remember this, this is going to set you on the way of becoming a really good public speaker, right? So let me just quickly cover those elements as an overview, right? And again, this is all from the Speak system that we're developing. It'll be available soon. And inshallah, this is going to really revolutionize public speaking for the da'is and across the world. So let's start with the nut within the center, which is the message. This is all about the message that you're going to be delivering, right? And so before you do any sort of public speaking, this is the essential core of why are you doing what you're doing? Why is it important? And then putting into a structure that's going to be powerful, right? And so the first thing is why, right? The why is so important when you're delivering a speech or anything that you want to talk about. And obviously when we talk about the Dawah, obviously we can refine it for the Dawah. But the most important question is, why is it important to you? Obviously, why is it important to us as Muslims? Well, it's so important that we must go out there and deliver the message. But then why should you speak about it? Why shouldn't someone else? Well, we know this because Allah has given us the responsibility for us to go out and speak about Islam to our communities, to the wider world. And so we have to understand that this why has to be greater than us. And of course, we understand that our purpose is to worship Allah, but also to share the message of Islam. So we already have that powerful why when we're doing the dawah. So this is the first element of basically preparing your message, that you understand why you're going out there and doing it, and you are renewing your intentions for the sake of Allah. Why is this topic important to you, right? And why must you speak about it? That's very clear. We know why that is. So the next element is really packaging the message together, right? And there's three elements to this. And you know, people throughout history have spoken about this, which is what's known as sort of the rhetorical triangle. There's three elements to it. You have what's known as the ethos, the logos, and the pathos, right? And obviously these are Greek words, but really, let me break it down for you. So the first element is about trust and credibility, that you must have credibility in the topic that you're speaking about, and you must build trust with the audience so that they take the information from you. The second element is really the logic and the evidence. And this is really all about the rational arguments where you're making the case for the topic that you're speaking about, but also using statistics, using data to really present your ideas in a way that makes sense and then backs up the message that you're saying. And then final element, which is so important, is the emotional connection, right? And so this is the three elements that you need to build into any speech, which is number one, first build trust and credibility. Second, build the logic and evidence. And thirdly, build the emotional connection. And of course, when you're going out there and you're giving dawah, everyone is different. So when you're bringing all of these three elements together, it's important that you tweak it slightly depending on the person that you're speaking to. So for some people, you may need to go a bit more focused on the trust and credibility. Or some people, you may need to focus more on the logic and evidence. Maybe in the West, right, where people don't believe in God, you may need to use logic and reason. Or some other people are already sort of spiritual, then you may need to focus on the emotional collection. You're talking about the spiritual elements, but all three elements need to be there. Okay, and so this is what's the first element of the Pina. And of course, I don't have time to go into all of these elements in terms of the ethos and the logos and the pathos, but just to give you an overview, the first element, when we talk about ethos and credibility, this is really where you want to present yourself as an authority in the area that you're speaking in. So when it comes to dawah, it may be from the perspective that you've been on the dawah training course, right? So that you know what you're speaking about. Or it may be a case that you've been involved in dawah for a number of years, and that's giving you the sort of credibility that you need, and obviously the integrity. And then basically, there's two forms of sort of ethos here, which is the intrinsic and the extrinsic. Intrinsic is through who you are, so that's within yourself, right? And then extrinsic is the sort of the external, through how you appear to others. So first and foremost, you must give yourself confidence that you feel that you have the ability to go out there and speak about the topic, speak about dawah. And so you need to obviously train yourselves. And obviously with Messengers of Peace Academy, they have a great training portal that you can go and train yourselves up in different areas. So that's the first thing. So you yourself, build the confidence, you build the right mindset, you build the energy so that you're ready to go out there. So you yourself, you understand that, you're able to do this. The second element of that is the extrinsic, which is how you appear to others externally. And we're going to be talking about that in the second element. So how can you show that you have ethos? So like I said, education, training and education, experience. If you don't have any of these, then you can always refer to experts in the field to back you up. Okay, so that's the first element, basically building credibility so people can take from you. The second element, in terms of preparation and preparation in the Dawah presentation, is the logos. And this is where you structure your argument, right? You're presenting your case for what you're going to be talking about. And so this is where you use logic, use examples, you use evidence, you use data, you use stories, all of these things to basically present your ideas, use case studies. And alhamdulillah, we have examples in many when it comes to this, when it comes to doing dawah. You know, we can take stories from the Quran, we can take contemporary examples, we can take classical examples, and we can bring all of this together to show and present the case for Islam. And then obviously you use argumentation in a nice way, not to get into debates, but to use deductive and inductive arguments to show that, look, what we're presenting when it comes to Islam, not only is it logical, it's rational, it makes sense, but we can show through evidence that this is true. And the final element really is pathos, which is the emotional content. And this is probably one of the most important. You know, when you're going out there and you're giving dawah or you're giving a talk, it's very important that you connect with the audience that you're speaking to. And so it has to come from your heart, right? And so you need to have, you know, you need to develop emotional intelligence, meaning that you need to be able to connect with others. You know, if you are just reading from a script, if you don't care about what you're talking about, then people will just see that, you know, see right through you, and you won't be able to connect to them on a one-to-one way. So an amazing way to do this is to use personal stories, to use other stories. Make sure you use eye contact, make sure you smile, use techniques such as mirroring and project emotions. You have to be authentic. And so when you bring all of these three elements together, right, the ethos, the logos, and the pathos, you have now structured what we call the message, the element, which is the middle part of the M&M. So does that make sense? Before I move on to the next element, does anyone have any questions with regards to the center part of the M&M, which is really the message? Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any examples? Does anyone have anything that they would like to share? Are you finding this content useful? Is this something that you would like to study more? Write in the comment box. I would love to know what your thoughts are. Is it a bunch of garbage? Like, you know, you're just finding that it's really boring? Let me know, inshallah. Okay, so whilst you're typing, basically we're going to go to the next element of the M&M. Okay, mashallah, someone has said yes, they're finding it useful. Good. The next element for preparation and presentation in the dawah using this nut technique is basically the mechanism. Yeah, the mechanism, and which is really the delivery methodology of presenting your message, right? And so if we look like today at the most powerful, engaging speakers, they're energetic, right? They've got lots of movement. They're so engaging. They're so dynamic. People can listen to them for hours, right? For example, Mufti Menk. He's an amazing public speaker. You probably heard of him. Numan Ali Khan. They're so engaging. One of the best is Hamza Yusuf, you know, from America. You know, these are amazing, amazing speakers, right? And in terms of the way that they engage. And so they have developed this skill so that they can deliver that message, right? And this is what's the mechanism, you know, using the mechanism to deliver the message in a very powerful way. So why don't you type in the comments box, who are your favorite speakers? Who do you find dynamic and engaging? And you will find, so Imam Fahima says, Dr. Yasir Qadi. Yeah, absolutely. MashaAllah. You know, he's an incredible speaker. But if you look at all of them, they all have a certain style, right? In order to engage their stories. And this is their mechanism. So this is the chocolate part of the M&M. And this is the exciting part, right? You've got the rhetoric now. You've got the message. You know how to sort of structure what you're going to be talking about in a way that's going to be powerful. But now how are you going to do that externally, right? And this is essentially what we're going to be talking about now. And this is where we're going to learn about the mechanism, right? And so what are the essential elements for this section? Well, this is really, designed to teach you how to deliver, your message in the most powerful way. And the main three areas for this is body language, your speech techniques, speaking from the heart, and presentation, like, being presentable. Because if you look at all of these public speakers, they all have their own style, but they also look amazing as well. So Sadiq Salahuddin has said, many of the Muslim speakers are very good message speakers, but I love JFK's method in the political sense and his rhetoric. Absolutely. John F. Kennedy was incredible in delivering speeches, right? And if you look at Malcolm X is another example, right? He was very powerful speaker. He had his own style, but they all had this mechanism, which included body language, speech techniques, right? So what do we start with? Of course, it starts with your presentation, right? And so number one, you need to be in the right mindset in terms of believing in what you are going to deliver in the most powerful way. So being presentable is super, super important, right? When it comes to delivering this message. So you want to look your best, right? And you want to feel best, because not only, like, when you present yourself in a good way, not only will you be able to deliver in the right way, in a way that's going to be powerful, engaging, and people are going to stick with you, but also it's going to give you the confidence. And we feel this all the time. When we look scruffy, when we look messy, we don't feel, as good as we do when we are looking sharp and presentable. So take the effort to present yourself in the best possible way, because again, what you're trying to do, you're trying to engage people, right? So whatever style works for you, make sure you're well groomed, make sure you're clean, make sure you feel good, you're presented in the right way, you're wearing the clothing that's going to give you the confidence where you feel comfortable to engage with the community. So presentation is skill. And again, this within itself is a topic within itself. So that's the starting point, I would say. Prepare yourself by externally feeling good and looking good before you go out there. And then once you go out there, obviously an essential element is posture. When you're going out there and you've got your message ready and you want to deliver it, posture is one of the most important things. The way that you stand, you want to make sure that your head's up, your shoulders are back. You don't want to be too stiff. You want to be relaxed, right? Don't put your hands in your pocket. If you look, hands are so powerful in terms of delivering the message, right? And so make sure you use that. And don't stay in one place either. Move around. It shows energy. And make use of your space as well. Okay, move around. So that's the first element, right? Is your posture. You got to be in a really confident sort of posture going forward. So people will just say, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's super confident, or this person. And so that's the first element. The second element is eye contact. That is so, so important, that you make eye contact with the person that you're speaking to. And we know this from our tradition. You know that the Prophet ﷺ said, when you engage people, make sure that you turn to them and you give them your full focus. And this has a big psychological impact on the individual. We know that some of the Sahaba used to say that when they spoke to the Prophet ﷺ in this manner, they always thought that they were the most beloved and special person to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And it's because he used this technique, right, of engaging. So again, don't stare. You move your eyes around. And so make sure you do that. If you're speaking to a group of people and an audience, one trick you can do, because it can be quite daunting, you see all of these people looking at you, maybe pick 5 people in the audience, right? Maybe 2 to the left, 2 to the right, 1 in the center, and then just keep on panning your eyes around those 5 people. And what that will do, it will give the illusion that you're speaking to everyone, you're looking at everyone, rather than, the worst thing is you can look down, you're not looking at the people, you're looking away. That's terrible, right? So make sure you do that. But also at the same time, you also want to use elements of, occasionally looking away when you're trying to make a point and then looking back. So that's your eyes, The next thing is your limbs, right? You want your hands are so powerful when it comes to delivering the message. You can paint an image with your hands. You can express a point with your hands. You can move towards the audience when you want to make a point. You can move away, when you want them to think about something. All of these are techniques, again, to deliver a very powerful message using the mechanism. Okay, so all of these elements, other elements you can use, again, is, for example, the fingers, when you want to point to make a point to a person, if you want to point to something and show them your palms as well. Again, very powerful gestures. Folding your arms when you want to make a serious point. So all of these things, you want to use a combination of all of these elements when you're talking. And when you see all of these top speakers that we spoke about at the beginning that you engage with, they all use these techniques. They all use, posture. They all use their limbs. They all use their eyes. They all, have all of these elements, and it brings it all together in a really nice package, right? And one of the best speakers out there is Les Brown. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's one of the biggest motivational speakers in the world. And just watch the way that he operates. Look at the energy that he brings. He brings all of these elements. So again, when we're going out there and we're doing Dawah, it's important that we do this. So these things don't come naturally, that, and I would like to add that. And so it's very important that you practice these things. Some people are naturally good at this, they've developed this from growing up. But when you're coming from a perspective of that, you don't have much public speaking skills, you don't have confidence in going out there and speaking to people, you do actually need to practice. So make sure all of these elements that you practice. So that's the sort of the external, the body parts, right? But also what's very important, the most important element is really your speaking, right? Your speech. And if you look at all of these powerful speakers, again, they have a technique in order to deliver the message. So what are some of the tips that we can give you? Number one, be concise with your words. Okay, you don't want to extend out your conversation unnecessarily. Use concise, strong, powerful words, right? Keep it simple and stick to the topic. Don't digress too much, right? And every now and again, you can go off on a tangent, but bring it back. And that's important. Secondly, an important element when you're delivering speeches is the power of pausing. Why is pausing so important? Well, when you use this in the right way, you can actually get people to think, right? So again, don't rush, take your time, pause, right? And when you want to make a point and elaborate on the point where you want them to either think about something, then use the power of pausing. Stop, ask a question, and then pause. So pauses are a very powerful tool that you can use. You can express control, create tension, also show confidence when you're doing that. Another thing that is so important is your pitch. Most people, when they talk on a monotone level, and this is natural, But if you look at yourself and you reflect, when you're with your friends, with your family, we're so expressive, right? We don't think about how we look or how we sound, but we realize that we use different pitches. So don't be monotone in your speech. When you're trying to emphasize a point, then raise your voice, speak louder, build in pauses. Then if you want them to encourage reflection, then lower your voice, speak quieter, speak slower. So all of these things you want to try and build in naturally, because everyone has their own style. So again, the main element of this is to practice all of these elements. So this is essentially the chocolate, which is the chocolate part. And so remember to try and put these elements. So just as a recall, in terms of just to remember, we're using the M&M analogy, which is made up of 3 elements: the nut, the chocolate, and the shell. So we've covered the nut, which is really the message. And we spoke about the message. First, you must understand why it's important, why the topic is important to you, renewing your intentions for the sake of Allah. then using the three parts of speech, which is the logos, the ethos, and the pathos, right? So the three elements of that are the first element, which is the authority and building credibility, the ethos, and then you've got the logos, which is the logic and the rhetoric, and the final part, which is the pathos, which is the emotions, bringing all of those elements together, and that builds a strong message for whatever you're going to be speaking about. And then we surround the nut with the chocolate, which is the mechanism, right? And so that is how you present your message now, and using a variety of techniques, like we said. So that's all body language, your posture, your eyes, your limbs, and then practicing all of these elements, your hands, and then also your speech, right? So being concise, using pauses, varying your speech in terms of its speed and its pitch. Don't be monotone. So practice these elements. And the final element, which is the shell, which is really bringing everything together now, which holds together the message and the mechanism, the M&M together, right? And so this is really the what we call the mantle, okay, the last part. So how do you protect your message, your and the mechanism? Because what is the biggest enemy to public speaking? Who can tell me? What is the biggest enemy to public speaking? Why does the M&M need that shell to protect the message and the mechanism? Who can put in the comments? What is the biggest fear when it comes to public speaking? Anyone have any ideas? What prevents people from speaking publicly, let's say? Okay, a bad image. Okay, not bad. Again, that comes back to credibility and authority. But say you've got that on point now. Say you've got your message. You've prepared everything. You know your why. You've got your message. You know, you've got the three elements of speech, right? The ethos, the logos, the pathos, the credibility and authority. Then you've got the actual the logic, the rhetoric, and then you've got the emotion, and then you've got all of the mechanism to go with it. Good. So Hudud says lack of confidence. So what can bring about a lack of confidence? The main thing, you've got it, but there's one word for this, is anxiety. And this is the fear of public speaking. If you wanted to break it down, this is essentially the biggest enemy. And so in order to package up that message and the mechanism, the nut and the chocolate and the M&M, you need to have a strong shell. And this is what we're going to be talking about in the last part, which is overcoming the anxiety, right? Because the shell protects it. And this is really like, you know, people when they go up and they're speaking for the first time, when you're speaking to a stranger, you have this fear of failure, the fear of how are people going to perceive me, you know? And so anxiety is the biggest enemy. And so how do you overcome this? And the shell is essentially how you need to understand this. So it's all about preparation, right? One of the ways you can do this, tips that we can give you is before you actually go out there, is to basically live out the worst case scenario in your mind. So imagine this, you're going out there to going to give a talk, let's say to 100 people, they don't know who you are, right? You've prepared everything, you're energetic, you're excited, but now anxiety creeps in. So you need to think like, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? Who can tell me what's the worst possible thing that could happen in when you're going out there and delivering a talk or you're going to be speaking? I can think of one, like someone could start laughing at you, right? Or someone could start heckling at you. Or someone just, when you look out to an audience, it looks like no one is bothered. But if we can live out these scenarios in our mind and overcome them, then that helps get over this anxiety. Also, another problem in terms of anxiety is mistakes. Naturally, you know, when we're giving a talk, we're going to make mistakes. And so what happens is, someone has said, throw some water bottles at you. Yeah, so that would be quite bad. But one of the things is when we're giving talks, like even today, You probably didn't notice, but I've made so many mistakes delivering this presentation. And so, how do you develop the skills so that when you do make a mistake, it doesn't hinder you, right? Is to change your relationship with mistakes. Is understand that you are going to make mistakes, but no problem. Just go with the flow. See them as stepping stones to the next section, right? And so keep on practicing. Also, confidence is something that will help you overcome anxiety. The more confident that you are, the more that you do this, the more that you're going to be able to overcome this anxiety that comes when you're going to deliver a public speech, or you're going to go out there and speak about Islam. So how do you acquire confidence? It's through practice, you know. So when you've prepared everything, you've had your training, you've got your message, you've got your mechanism, go in front of a mirror and practice, or find some friends and family and practice your speech, because an essential part of public speaking are the hours that you put in. You need to put in the hours. And that's an essential part. If you look at all of the public speakers that you mentioned, even the number one public speaker in the world, you could say, or motivational speaker, Tony Robbins, right? If you've heard of him, American speaker, he has put in the hours in his lifetime so that he's got to a point. If you know anything about Tony Robbins, when he first started out, he had no qualifications, right? He had no authority. And so how did he develop the skill? He had a passion. He wanted to help people. And so what he would do literally is he would look for venues where they would allow anyone to come and just give a speech about any topic. And then he would book them out. And even if there was just one person, he would use it as a practice session to the point where he felt confident in delivering. So you have to put in the hours, right? So in order to overcome anxiety, you need to practice, you need to prepare. And then this experience will help you reduce anxiety. You also obviously need to develop confidence, and that comes with courage, right? You need to have courage. And the courage you get when you're doing dawah is from Allah. You know, ask Allah for help, you know. Yes, awaken the giant author, that's correct, Imam Fahim. And so where do we get our strength from? We get it from Allah. You know, when Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he was commanded to go out and speak to Pharaoh, imagine the leader of the world, and he had a speech impediment. Where did he draw his power from? From Allah. So we need to get the same courage that the prophets had, to go out there and speak confidently, right, about this. So you need courage. So untamed fear will make you, you know, achieve your goal, right? And so it's important to be courageous. So the 3 P's really about this area, about overcoming anxiety, is number 1 is to prepare. And we know by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So always prepare in advance. Practice, practice, practice. Practice makes perfect. After, you know, a long time of practicing, our work will become natural, skillful, swift, and steady. And this is a quote by Bruce Lee, right? And imagine the hours that he put in to become an expert in martial arts. And the final P is parrot. You know the bird parrot? It just parrots, 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 parrots. That's all about repeating. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat, and keep on speaking, right? And so these are the elements. And the last thing I can give you, the last tip essentially, is these are all of the sort of preparation elements you can use before you're going out. So you've got the peanut right now, you've got the nut, you've got the message, you've got the chocolate, the mechanism, you've got the mantle, right? You've got the full peanut. You're ready to go and deliver the message. You're prepared. But now you're just about to step forward. Either you're going to speak to someone or you're going to speak to an audience. And this is where you get nervous, right? So there are some tips that you can use to settle yourself at the beginning of your talk. And this is what we call the settlement period, right? Every speaker is nervous for the first few minutes, regardless of who they are. Everyone is nervous, right? So some of the things that you can do to help yourself is to basically try and shift the focus away from yourself onto the audience. And that will give you time at the beginning, right? And so maybe you want to ask them a question at the beginning or share a story, right? And engage them. And that will give you the time to overcome this this beginning period where you feel nervous. You know, when you have butterflies, right? And so that's what you want to do. You want to basically get over this settlement period. Memorize your first few lines so you know what you're going to be saying. You don't want to be stuttering, right? You don't want to get your words mixed up. So just put it out there to the audience and then just settle yourself. You also, what you want to do is floating, something that's known as floating. This is from Dr. Claire Weeks, and she said there's three sort of ways to help overcome anxiety, which is accept, float, and let time pass, right? So don't be bewildered by anxiety, embrace it, right? Accept that it's natural, and then just float over it. So, you know, like a balloon floats in the sky or a plane floats through the air. That's what you want to do. You want to float through your talk or and then basically harness the benefits of that. And finally, is basically you want to take the action, right? And this is important when it comes to getting ready. And so the last part of this is essentially the mental side of things, which is the mentality. You need to develop a strong mentality when you're going out there, because you're going to get all of these things coming, like we said, anxiety, right? So visualization is a very important technique you can use to overcome anxiety, right? And what's interesting is human beings, our nervous system that's within us is essentially, if you can train it to believe whatever's in your imagination. So if you imagine something really powerfully, then your nervous system will not be able to differentiate between what is imagined and what is true. So you can use some very powerful techniques to overcome this. And you have Maxwell Maltz. I think he developed a really powerful technique, which is known as the theater of the mind. So go and check him out. So he has this technique where he basically tells you to do a 20-minute practice session of you delivering whatever you're going to be delivering in your mind. So close your eyes, right? Imagine you're closing your eyes. You're about to step out and deliver your speech or deliver your talk, right? And imagine the people are in front of you and you're not stuttering and you're using these amazing stories, all of the three elements, the message, the mechanism, and the mantle. People are clapping, they're applauding you, or you're having a really good conversation and you come across really confident. So see it out. So imagine it in your mind, right? And then that will help you develop the mental game of when you go out there. And so essentially, brothers and sisters, this is an introduction into the public speak system, right? So we said, you know, the SPEAK stands for story, psychology, expertise and action, and keystone. And today we covered just one element, which was the M&M system, right? Which is the M&M chocolate, which helps you prepare your speech or your talk, and you know, you're able to present in a very powerful way. So in conclusion, the M&M system has three different elements: the nut, the chocolate, and the shell. And the nut represents the message that you're going to be delivering, so designing that. The chocolate is the mechanism, which is the outwardly and the inwardly. And finally, the mantle is the shell that puts it all together in a solid structure and protects it from external forces, which is the anxiety. So brothers and sisters, that was the presentation in how to prepare and present yourself in public speaking or in Dawah. So I've got a few minutes. I think we've got about 5 or 10 minutes to take on any questions or any comments. So, you know, I hope you guys found that useful and beneficial, inshallah. And let us know what you think. What did you think of the methodology? What did you think of the M&M system? And also what we're going to be doing is I'm going to share an email address with you because when we do launch this, we'll be able to contact you. So if you're interested, let us know. But so, any comments? What did you guys think? Was it good? So Fatan Huti says, Jazakallah khair, found that useful. Anyone else? I apologize, I didn't have any slides, but when we do deliver this, we will have very powerful slides and notes and everything. But I hope that was useful. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to comment? Okay, so we have very informative, mashallah, from Brother Fahim. And so, the essential element really about public speaking and preparing yourself is practicing. And, one essential element is coaching. Coaching is so important when it comes to developing this skill. Even if you look at public speaking, if you were just to do a search, you come up with so many companies, so many courses, and they focus on this element. And it's something that we need to practice, brothers and sisters. When we're talking about dawah, the most important job, that Allah gave and esteemed, elevated, the prophets, they're the most important people in humanity because they went and delivered the message. We need to prepare ourselves so that we deliver the message in the best possible way. So we should skill ourselves up, right? And coaching is an important element, alhamdulillah. So we have a few comments here as well. I think you have more viewers, brother. Maybe create an event. Jazakallah khair. Speaking skills are very useful, especially in dawah. I'm a dawah volunteer. I can relate to everything you said. MashaAllah. Okay, so we have a question. I'm just going to put the email in. So if anyone's interested, just email us. You can email us at projectspeech19@gmail.com. So the question is, Sheikh, I'm no Sheikh, by the way. You can call me Milkshake, but I'll answer your question. What about when we give dawah to the opposite gender? How to balance between lowering our gaze and keeping eye contact? Yes, very good question, mashallah. Of course, when it comes to interaction between the different genders, we have, an example to follow. So, of course, when you're going out there and you're conveying the message of Islam, especially to the public, you are naturally going to be speaking to members of the opposite gender. So, of course, it's important when it comes to eye contact. Obviously, you want to do it in a way where you're engaging the person, right, in the right way, but also you're not, you're trying to be modest at the same time, and so there's a fine balance. Some people, they go to the complete extreme. We completely won't look at the person, and that can be very off-putting for people who are not Muslim. They're not used to that. It's like, is there something wrong with my face? So again, you want to connect with them, and so you need to balance it out. Of course, we're told, not to excessively stare, but of course that's done within, and so this comes with experience, inshallah. Okay, so Hudud says, please share the email. I'm interested in your new launch, inshallah. Yeah, so we're going to have a course, we're going to have a coaching system, and it's going to be incredible, inshallah. It's going to be a game changer, and the whole point is to develop you guys into the most powerful speakers in the world so that you can deliver whatever message that you may have, and in particular the dawah to the world, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with us and accept it from us, and then more people, by the permission of Allah, will be interested in Islam and accept Islam, inshallah. Cool. So do we have any other questions? Sister Sakina, I don't know if you're still watching, but if you could put in the link for the brothers and sisters for our academy. So if they want to learn about how to give dawah, that they can go to the website and they can go through all of the different shayuk. It's amazing because you've got all of these different programs. They all have their different ways. But what I advise you to do is look at their public speaking. Look at the way that they deliver. Everyone has their own style. But if you look at the analogy we use, the M&M, it's all there. The message is there, right? With the rhetoric, the three parts of rhetoric. The mechanism is there. And the mantle, they all have. And so this is an essential part of public speaking, inshallah. So does anyone have any other comments or any questions? Anything that you would like to say before we end today, inshallah? So Fahima said you can always look over the heads and slightly focus on sisters' area. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yep. So here we go. Sisters put up the website, Messages of Peace Academy. It says registration is closed, but you'll be notified next, inshallah. So what is next? That's a really good question. Inshallah, we do regular live streams on this platform. So look out for the next live stream. If you subscribe, then you will get a notification when the next one is. You know, we have amazing speakers on this platform that talk about a variety of different topics when it comes to dawah from people all across the world, inshallah. So look out for that. Inshallah, you will get a message. And yeah, Jazakallah khair for taking out the time. May Allah bless every single one of you. Please keep us in your du'as. And remember, renew your intentions, keep up the dawah, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us all. I'll catch you guys next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.